Hi dear, welcome to your favorite audiobook channel Wisdom Flicks. Persuasion Mastery, how to influence anyone, anytime. Discover the hidden language of influence and unlock the power to change minds effortlessly. What if you could persuade anyone, anytime, without pressure or tricks? Inside Persuasion Mastery, you'll uncover secrets top leaders and influencers use daily, ready to transform your communication and open doors you never thought possible. Introduction. The power of persuasion. Persuasion is not just a tool, it is a life-altering force. From everyday conversations to high-stakes negotiations, the ability to influence others shapes our success, our relationships, and even our self-image. Whether we realize it or not, we are constantly engaging in acts of persuasion. When we speak to a colleague, encourage a friend, pitch an idea, or present ourselves to the world. Yet, for many people, the word persuasion carries a certain stigma. It sounds manipulative, deceptive, or even aggressive. But that view is outdated and incomplete. True persuasion is not about pushing people into decisions they don't want to make. It's about guiding them toward choices that are aligned with both your intentions and their interests. It is built on trust, emotional intelligence, and a deep understanding of human behavior. This book is your guide to mastering that art. You don't need to be a natural-born speaker, a charismatic leader, or a professional negotiator. What you need is awareness, strategy, and practice. And that's exactly what this audiobook will give you. Think for a moment about how influence shapes your life. Think about the people who've inspired you: a teacher, a mentor, a parent, a boss. What made their words stick? What made you listen, reflect, and act? It wasn't force. It wasn't pressure. It was connection. It was clarity. It was persuasion. Persuasion is the subtle, often invisible thread that ties ideas to action. It is what turns a thought into a belief, and a belief into behavior. When you master persuasion, you don't just change minds, you change outcomes. You create new possibilities. You open doors that once seemed closed. In the modern world, where attention is scarce and opinions are loud, persuasive communication is not optional. It is essential. Whether you're selling a product, presenting a proposal, leading a team, resolving conflict, or simply trying to get your point across, your ability to influence others will determine your level of success. This book isn't about gimmicks or psychological tricks. It's not about manipulation or control. It's about developing authentic influence that is grounded in trust, respect, and purpose. It's about learning how people think, what they feel, and why they respond the way they do, and then using that insight to become more effective, more impactful, and more intentional in every interaction. That we will explore practical strategies rooted in behavioral psychology, communication science, and real-world experience. You'll learn how to build instant rapport, how to frame your message for maximum effect, and how to handle objections without resistance. You'll discover how to use your words, your body language, and even your silence as persuasive tools. You'll uncover the hidden patterns of influence that operate all around you, in advertising, leadership, media, and relationships, so you can spot them, understand them, and use them wisely. But persuasion is not just an external skill. It starts with your internal state, your mindset, your confidence, your clarity. That's why we'll also explore how to strengthen your own conviction and align your message with your values. Because when you believe deeply in what you're saying, others will feel it and follow it. The journey you're about to take is not only about learning to persuade others. It's about transforming how you communicate, how you connect, and how you show up in the world. You will become more influential, not just in what you say, but in how you lead, how you listen, and how you live. Persuasion is power. But unlike brute force, it's the kind of power that uplifts, inspires, and endures. It doesn't leave scars. It leaves impact. If you're ready to discover that power, to master the tools and principles that the world's most influential people use every day. Let's begin. You're not just learning how to influence. You're learning how to influence with purpose, anytime, anywhere, with anyone. Chapter 1. The psychology behind influence. Before you can influence others effectively, you need to understand how people think, decide, and behave. Persuasion isn't about overpowering someone's will. It's about working with the natural forces that guide human behavior. The real power of persuasion lies not in words alone, but in psychology, in understanding the mental and emotional triggers that drive action. In this chapter, we explore the fundamental principles of human psychology that shape the way we make decisions. Whether you're trying to convince someone to buy a product, accept an idea, or see your perspective, these principles are always at play. Point 1. People don't think logically, they think emotionally. One of the biggest myths about decision-making is that people are rational. In reality, human beings are emotional creatures who justify decisions with logic after the fact. We like to think we're logical, but most of our choices are made in the emotional centers of the brain, especially when we're under pressure, excited, anxious, or uncertain. For example, when someone buys a luxury car, they might say it's because of the safety features or engineering quality. But deep down, they may be driven by status, pride, or the feeling of success. Emotions create the desire. Logic creates the excuse. As a persuader, your job is to speak to emotion first. Make people feel something. Once they feel, they'll listen. Once they feel connected, inspired, curious, or understood, they'll become open to your message. Use stories, analogies, vivid language, and shared emotions to connect on that deeper level. Point 2. Cognitive biases. The shortcuts of the mind. Our brains are constantly trying to save energy by taking mental shortcuts. These shortcuts, known as cognitive biases, shape how we interpret information, form judgments, and make choices, often without us even realizing it. Some of the most powerful cognitive biases used in persuasion include confirmation bias. People seek information that confirms what they already believe. Persuaders use this by aligning their message with existing values or beliefs before introducing new ideas. Authority bias. People are more likely to trust and follow those they perceive as experts or leaders. This is why titles, credentials, and confident body language can make a big difference in persuasion. Social proof. When uncertain, people look to others for cues on how to behave. Testimonials, popularity, or evidence of group behavior make your message more persuasive. Scarcity bias. The fear of missing out is a powerful motivator. When something is limited, exclusive, or time-sensitive, it appears more valuable and desirable. These mental shortcuts aren't flaws, they're survival tools. But when you understand how they work, you can ethically shape your message in ways that resonate more effectively. Point 3. The brain is wired for stories, not data. The human brain is not wired to remember facts, figures, or bullet points. It's wired for stories. Stories are how we make sense of the world. They engage multiple parts of the brain, including the sensory and emotional centers. That's why a story about one person's experience is often more compelling than a statistic about 1,000,000 people. Great persuaders use storytelling to create empathy, illustrate ideas, and plant suggestions. A well-told story can bypass skepticism and touch the heart before the mind even catches up. For instance, if you're trying to convince someone to donate to a cause, don't start with statistics. Start with a real story about one person who was helped. Make it visual. Make it emotional. Then bring in the data. The emotional connection opens the door, and the facts close the deal. Point 4. People are motivated by pain and pleasure at the most basic level. Human behavior is driven by two forces, the desire to gain pleasure and the desire to avoid pain. Often, the avoidance of pain is the stronger motivator. When crafting a persuasive message, ask yourself, what pain is the other person trying to escape? What pleasure are they trying to reach? The more clearly you can identify and address these emotional drivers, the more powerful your message becomes. For example, in marketing, an ad that shows how a product eliminates a frustrating problem often performs better than one that just highlights a benefit. The same is true in conversation. If you can show that your solution removes a pain point, people will pay attention. Point 5. People respond to personal relevance no matter how well-crafted your argument is. If it doesn't feel personally relevant to your listener, it won't move them. The key to influence is to make your message about them, not you. Everyone listens through their own filter. What's in it for me? Your message must answer that question clearly and early. Speak their language. Understand their values. Show that you get their challenges, their hopes, and their worldview. When people feel seen and understood, they become far more open to influence. Point 6. Repetition builds belief. Psychologists have long studied the mere exposure effect, the tendency for people to develop a preference for things simply because they're familiar. In persuasion, repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity creates comfort and trust. Don't be afraid to repeat your core message. Say it clearly. Say it confidently. Say it often. Over time, people begin to internalize repeated messages as truth. This is one reason slogans and political messages are repeated endlessly. Not because people forget them, but because repetition strengthens belief. But remember, repetition must be paired with clarity and emotional resonance. Empty repetition feels hollow. Purposeful repetition builds conviction. Point 7. Influence begins with understanding. Before you try to influence someone, stop and seek to understand them. What do they value? What are they afraid of? What do they hope for? What language do they use? This is where empathy comes in. The more deeply you understand your audience, the more precisely you can tailor your message. Great persuaders are great listeners first. They don't assume, they inquire. They ask questions. They observe body language. They notice patterns. Influence is not something you do to someone. It's something you do with someone through connection, trust, and understanding. Closing thought. Persuasion is not a trick. It's a form of applied psychology, a deep understanding of how people work, combined with the ability to communicate clearly, ethically, and effectively. When you understand the psychology behind influence, you don't have to guess how to persuade someone. You'll already know. In the chapters ahead, we'll dive deeper into specific tools, language patterns, techniques, and real-life applications of persuasion. But remember, psychology is the foundation. Influence doesn't start with talking. It starts with understanding the mind of the person you're speaking to. When you learn how people really think, you'll learn how to help them think differently. And that's when real persuasion begins. Chapter 2. Building instant trust. Trust is the foundation of all influence. No matter how skilled you are in communication, persuasion simply cannot occur without trust. People listen to those they trust. They follow those they trust. And they are persuaded only when they feel safe, seen, and respected. If trust is missing, your words will fall flat, your message will be questioned, and your intentions will be doubted. This chapter will show you how to create trust quickly, authentically, and consistently. Whether you're meeting someone for the first time, speaking to a group, or engaging in a one-on-one conversation, your ability to build trust fast is what opens the door to influence. 1. First impressions matter more than you think. People make decisions about your trustworthiness within seconds of meeting you. This first impression is not based on logic or detailed evaluation. It's based on instinct, appearance, tone, and body language. Psychologists call this thin slicing, the brain's ability to make quick judgments with minimal information. These split-second judgments are often surprisingly accurate, and more importantly, they're hard to change. So how do you create a trustworthy first impression? Show warmth before competence. Research shows that people judge warmth and trustworthiness before they assess competence. If you come off as cold or arrogant, your skills won't matter. But if you appear warm, open, and friendly, people become far more receptive to your message. Smile sincerely. A genuine smile signals safety, friendliness, and goodwill. It relaxes others and lowers resistance. Forced or insincere smiles, on the other hand, are easily detected and damage trust. Make eye contact. Good eye contact conveys confidence and presence. It tells the other person you are paying attention, you respect them, and you have nothing to hide. Avoiding eye contact can be interpreted as dishonesty or insecurity. Stand or sit with open body language. Crossed arms, fidgeting, or turning your body away from the other person can signal disinterest or defensiveness. Instead, face the person directly. Keep your posture relaxed but upright, and use your hands to express openness. The first moments of any interaction set the tone for everything that follows. Focus on making others feel comfortable, respected, and acknowledged. 2. Use mirroring to build rapport. One of the most powerful tools in building instant trust is mirroring, subtly matching the other person's body language, tone, tempo, and even vocabulary. Mirroring is a natural behavior that people do when they feel connected, and you can use it intentionally to build that connection faster. For example, if someone speaks slowly and softly, lower your voice slightly and slow your pace. If they use casual language, mirror that style instead of being overly formal. If they lean forward when listening, do the same. This doesn't mean copying someone robotically. That would feel unnatural and manipulative. Instead, use mirroring as a way to create subconscious harmony. When people feel in sync with you, they begin to trust you, even if they can't explain why. 3. Be authentically interested. Not just interesting people are naturally drawn to those who show genuine interest in them. When you focus your attention on others, asking thoughtful questions, listening carefully, and remembering details, you create a sense of value and respect. Being interested makes others feel important. And when someone feels important in your presence, trust follows. Here are a few ways to show authentic interest. Ask open-ended questions like, "What's been on your mind lately?" Or "What brought you here?" Listen actively without interrupting or redirecting the conversation back to yourself. Reflect what you hear by paraphrasing or summarizing their key points. Remember names, preferences, or stories they've shared in the past. In a world where people often feel ignored or rushed, giving someone your full attention is one of the fastest ways to build trust. 4. Speak with calm confidence. Trust is not just about being warm. It's also about being stable. When you communicate with calm confidence, people sense that you are grounded, reliable, and in control. Avoid sounding rushed, overly intense, or emotionally reactive. Instead, use a steady, measured tone of voice. Pause to collect your thoughts instead of filling silence with nervous chatter. Choose words that reflect clarity and certainty. Confidence without arrogance is persuasive. It tells people, "You can rely on me. I know what I'm talking about. I have your best interest in mind." 5. Tell the truth. Even when it's uncomfortable, trust is built on honesty. That may sound obvious, but many people erode trust without realizing it by exaggerating, sugarcoating, or avoiding the truth when it's inconvenient. If you want long-term influence, be known as someone who tells the truth, always. People may not always like what you say, but they will respect you for saying it. And that respect is a powerful foundation for influence. Here's what honesty looks like in practice. Admit when you don't know something. Be upfront about limitations or risks. Keep your promises or explain why you can't fulfill them. Speak with integrity, even when no one is watching. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you strengthen your credibility. 6. Establish common ground. Trust deepens when people feel a sense of familiarity. That's why finding shared experiences, interests, or values can create a strong bond. Look for opportunities to say things like, "I've been through something similar. I can relate to that feeling. I see where you're coming from." This doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. It means making an effort to understand and connect, to say, "We're not so different, you and I." When people feel that you're on the same side of the table, not the other side, they become more open to your ideas. 7. Be consistent in words and actions. Trust isn't built in a single moment. It's built over time through consistency. People need to see that your behavior matches your words, that you show up the same way whether it's convenient or not, that you follow through on what you say. Inconsistent behavior causes confusion. Confusion causes doubt, and doubt is the enemy of trust. If you want to be a persuasive person, you must first be a predictable one. Let others know what to expect from you, and then deliver on that expectation every time. 8. Listen to understand, not to respond. Nothing builds trust faster than feeling understood, and nothing destroys it faster than feeling dismissed. The most persuasive people in the world are not the ones who talk the most. They are the ones who listen the most. Here's how to listen with trust-building intent. Give the speaker your full attention, no distractions. Don't rush to respond or offer solutions. Just listen. Ask clarifying questions like, "Can you tell me more about that?" Acknowledge emotions, not just facts. "That must have been frustrating." Or, "I can imagine how exciting that was." When people feel heard, they open up, they lower their defenses, and they begin to trust. Final thought: trust is the gateway to influence. Without it, your message won't land. With it, you can move mountains. And the good news is that trust is not a mystery, it's a skill. You build it through presence, empathy, clarity, and consistency. You create it by making people feel seen, safe, and valued. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the power of language, how to use words with precision, elegance, and influence. But always remember, before anyone listens to what you say, they're already listening to who you are. Start with trust. Everything else follows. Chapter 3. Mastering verbal persuasion. Words are your most powerful tools of influence. They can inspire action, change beliefs, and shift perceptions. But the power of verbal persuasion doesn't lie in simply talking more, it lies in talking smarter. The right words, spoken in the right way, at the right time, can move people. The wrong words can shut them down completely. In this chapter, you'll learn how to speak in a way that persuades, connects, and leads. From the choice of your words to the rhythm of your speech, every element matters when you're trying to influence someone. Let's explore how to craft language that not only reaches the ears, but moves the mind and touches the heart. 1. Speak with clarity and simplicity. Complex language may sound impressive, but it doesn't persuade. People are not moved by jargon, buzzwords, or intellectual gymnastics. They are moved by clarity, by words that are easy to understand, repeat, and remember. Persuasive speakers use language that is simple, short words over long ones. Help instead of facilitate. Use instead of utilize. Concrete. Avoid vague phrases like value-added solutions. Instead, say exactly what the benefit is. Direct. Get to the point. Don't wrap your message in unnecessary fluff. Remember, clarity breeds confidence. If people can't understand you, they can't follow you. Speak in a way that feels like a conversation, not a lecture. 2. Use power words that influence the subconscious. Certain words are naturally persuasive because they trigger emotional or psychological responses. These are called power words, and they can grab attention, build curiosity, and create urgency. Here are a few examples. You. Personalizes your message. People pay more attention when something is about them. Because signals reason and logic. Studies show that people are more likely to comply with a request when it includes a reason, even a simple one. Imagine activates visualization. When people picture your idea, they begin to believe it. Now creates urgency and presence. Easy reduces resistance by implying simplicity and effortlessness. Proven builds trust by signaling evidence and credibility. Secret sparks curiosity. People want access to hidden knowledge. Use these words intentionally, not excessively. They're effective because they speak to the part of the brain that makes fast, emotional decisions. 3. Engage through storytelling. Stories are persuasion tools disguised as entertainment. They disarm resistance, lower skepticism, and create emotional connection. A well-told story doesn't just deliver information, it makes your audience feel the message. Here's how to use stories persuasively. Keep them short and focused. Make one clear point. Don't let the story wander. Make it relatable. Use characters or situations your audience can identify with. Include emotion. Emotion is what makes stories memorable and meaningful. End with impact. Tie the story back to your key message or call to action. You don't need dramatic events to tell great stories. Even small, everyday moments can become powerful if they reveal something real, emotional, or valuable. 4. Use the power of framing. Framing is how you position an idea. The way you present something can completely change how it's received, even if the facts remain the same. For example, saying 90% success rate feels more positive than 10% failure rate, even though both are mathematically identical. Calling something an investment sounds smarter than calling it a cost. To frame persuasively, highlight benefits over features. Focus on gains over losses, or vice versa, depending on your audience. Use metaphors and analogies to reframe complex or unfamiliar ideas in a way that feels familiar. Framing isn't about distortion, it's about perspective. Show your audience a viewpoint that resonates with their goals and values. 5. Master the art of asking questions. Questions are one of the most powerful verbal persuasion tools. They shift the focus from you to them, make the other person feel in control, and guide them toward conclusions without resistance. Here are several types of persuasive questions. Open-ended questions. What's most important to you in this situation? These invite reflection and reveal insights. Leading questions. Wouldn't it make sense to try the approach that's already proven to work? These nudge the listener toward agreement. Future-paced questions. How would it feel to finally have this problem solved? These encourage visualizing a positive outcome. Yes, latter questions. Start with small, easy-to-agree questions. To build momentum. Do you want results? Do you believe in growth? Would you be open to something that helps with that? Asking instead of telling creates space for engagement. It also makes people feel like the idea was theirs, which is one of the strongest forms of influence. 6. Use repetition for emphasis and belief. People remember what they hear repeatedly. More importantly, repetition reinforces belief. When a message is repeated in different ways across different moments, it becomes familiar. And what's familiar feels true. Here's how to use repetition without sounding redundant. Repeat your core idea using different phrasing. This will help you save time. It'll also free up your day. It gives you back your hours. Revisit key points at the beginning and end of conversations or presentations. Create phrases or slogans that are easy to remember and repeat. Great communicators often repeat themselves, not because they're unsure, but because they want their message to stick. 7. Control your tone, rhythm, and pace. How you say something is often more important than what you say. Your tone, pace, and rhythm can either invite someone in or push them away. Here's how to speak with persuasive control. Slow down. Fast. Talk can feel nervous or pushy. Speaking at a measured pace gives weight to your words. Use pauses. A well-timed pause creates emphasis and gives your audience time to absorb your message. Lower your tone. A slightly lower pitch tends to sound more authoritative. Avoid filler words, like, and dilute your message and weaken your presence. When your voice is calm, clear, and intentional, it communicates confidence, and confidence builds trust. 8. Use contrast to create impact. People make decisions based on contrast, not in isolation. If you present only one option, it's hard for someone to assess its value. But if you present two or more options with clear contrast, your preferred option stands out. For example, you could keep spending hours every day fixing this, or you could use this method and get it done in 20 minutes. Other plans cost hundreds. This one delivers the same value at half the price. Contrast helps people make decisions by highlighting differences. Use it to frame your message more persuasively. 9. Speak their language, not yours. Every audience has its own language, its own preferred words, metaphors, and mental models. If you want to persuade someone, speak in their language, not yours. Here's how. Pay attention to the words they use, then mirror them. Use examples that reflect their world, their profession, culture, or interests. Avoid technical jargon, unless you're sure they understand it. When people hear familiar language, they feel understood. And when they feel understood, they're more open to your ideas. Final thought: verbal persuasion is not about being loud, forceful, or clever. It's about being clear, connected, and intentional. It's about choosing words that resonate, questions that reveal, and tones that invite. The most persuasive people aren't always the ones with the most to say. They're the ones who say what matters in a way that moves others. As you move forward in this book, remember, every word you speak carries weight. With awareness and practice, you can make those words not just heard, but felt, remembered, and acted upon. Next, we'll explore a language that doesn't use words at all: body language. In Chapter 4, you'll learn how to master nonverbal influence, techniques that speak louder than speech. Chapter 4, Nonverbal Influence Techniques. Words matter, but what you say often pales in comparison to how you say it. Your voice tone, facial expressions, gestures, and posture. These nonverbal signals communicate far more than you might realize. In fact, research shows that the majority of human communication is nonverbal. When your body language supports your message, you become exponentially more persuasive. When it contradicts your message, trust breaks down, no matter how carefully chosen your words are. In this chapter, we'll explore the essential nonverbal techniques that boost your influence, create trust, and help you command attention without speaking a word. This is the silent language of persuasion, and learning to master it can elevate your communication in every area of life. 1. The power of posture. Own the space you're in. Posture is one of the most immediate indicators of confidence or insecurity. When you enter a room, people make judgments about you within seconds, often based on how you stand, walk, and carry yourself. Confident posture communicates leadership, presence, and credibility. Insecure posture suggests self-doubt, hesitation, or submission. Here's how to establish a persuasive posture. Stand tall. Keep your spine straight, shoulders back, and chest slightly lifted. This posture shows you are open and assured. Relax your arms. Let them rest naturally at your sides or use them to gesture with intention. Avoid crossing your arms, which can signal defensiveness. Plant your feet. Keep your stance grounded and balanced. Avoid shifting back and forth, which can appear nervous. Face your audience. Whether it's one person or a group, turn your body toward them. This shows respect and engagement. Great communicators don't shrink. They expand. They take up space with calm authority. 2. Eye contact. The gateway to connection. Eye contact is the fastest way to build trust and connection. When someone looks into your eyes, they're subconsciously reading your emotions, intentions, and honesty. But eye contact is powerful only when used correctly. Too little can make you seem evasive or disinterested. Too much can feel aggressive or intimidating. Here's how to use eye contact effectively. Aim for balance. Maintain consistent, natural eye contact about 60 to 70% of the time during a conversation. Don't stare. Break eye contact occasionally to avoid making the other person uncomfortable. Look away briefly and then return. Look with intention. When making a point, hold eye contact a little longer to add emphasis. When listening, soften your gaze to show receptiveness. In group settings, make sure to include everyone by shifting your gaze naturally between individuals. This makes each person feel seen and engaged. 3. Facial expressions. Speak with your face. Your face is a reflection of your inner emotional state. It also serves as a social cue that others use to interpret your message. A smile, a raised eyebrow, or a furrowed brow can completely change how your words are received. To use facial expressions persuasively, smile genuinely. A real smile, one that reaches the eyes, is a universal signal of warmth and approachability. Match your expression to your message. If you're expressing enthusiasm, let your face show it. If you're discussing something serious, adopt a calm, sincere look. Avoid flat or stiff expressions. A blank face can confuse or alienate your audience. Be expressive but natural. When your facial expressions align with your words, your message feels authentic and emotionally resonant. 4. Gestures. Let your hands help you speak. Gestures aren't just hand movements. They're visual aids that amplify your message. Used properly, gestures help emphasize key points, signal confidence, and maintain attention. Effective gestures include open palms. Showing your palms signals honesty and openness. Illustrative gestures. Using your hands to show size, direction, or emotion makes your message more memorable. Controlled movement. Keep your gestures purposeful and fluid. Avoid excessive fidgeting, pointing, or clasping your hands tightly. Don't overthink your gestures. Let them flow naturally from your message. The goal is to support your speech, not distract from it. 5. The power of silence in persuasion. Silence can be more powerful than speech. It creates space for others to think, feel, and respond. It also adds weight to your words. Use silence strategically. Pause before important points. This builds anticipation and focus. Pause after making a key statement. This allows your words to sink in and encourages reflection. Stay silent after asking a question. Give the other person space to answer without rushing to fill the gap. Silence shows confidence. It signals that you're comfortable with your message and in control of the conversation. 6. Mirroring and matching. Create subconscious connection. Mirroring is the act of subtly reflecting another person's body language, tone, or gestures. When done naturally, it creates unconscious rapport and increases likability. People feel more comfortable around those who behave like them. It's a psychological phenomenon rooted in the desire for belonging. To use mirroring effectively, observe, then adapt. Match their posture, gestures, or speaking pace subtly. Never mimic. Focus on rhythm and energy. If they speak softly and calmly, mirror that tone. If they're more animated, gently raise your energy level. Match. Breathing patterns. This creates a strong physiological connection, especially in one-on-one conversations. The goal is to build harmony, not copy behavior. When done right, mirroring makes people feel like you're on the same wavelength. 7. Proximity and space. Respect the invisible boundaries. How close you stand to someone affects how your message is received. In persuasion, proximity must be balanced with respect for personal space. Here's how to navigate space effectively. Social distance. 4 to 12 feet appropriate for public or group interactions. Personal distance. 1.5 to 4 feet ideal for one-on-one conversations, depending on the level of familiarity. Intimate distance. 0 to 1.5 feet reserved for close relationships. Inappropriate in professional settings unless explicitly welcomed. Be mindful of cultural differences, as personal space preferences vary widely. When in doubt, let the other person guide proximity. Also, consider your physical positioning. Standing beside someone while discussing a challenge feels collaborative. Standing directly in front of them can feel confrontational. Angle your body slightly to reduce tension and invite openness. 8. Voice and tonality. The music of influence. Your voice is a key part of your nonverbal toolkit. It carries emotion, intention, and energy. Two people can say the exact same words and have drastically different effects because of how they sound. To use your voice persuasively, vary your tone. A monotone voice loses attention. Emphasize key words. Raise your pitch when asking a question and lower it when making a strong point. Control your volume. Speak loudly enough to command attention, but not so loud that it feels aggressive. Use pace intentionally. Slow down to emphasize. Speed up to build excitement. Pause to let your message breathe. A well-modulated voice captures attention and creates emotional engagement, both of which are crucial for persuasion. 9. Appearance and presentation. Whether we like it or not, appearance influences perception. This doesn't mean you need to be physically attractive, but it does mean you need to be intentional about how you present yourself. Tips for persuasive presentation. Dress appropriately. Match your attire to your audience and the situation. Dressing one level above expectations shows respect and credibility. Be well-groomed. Clean, neat, and polished presentation sends a message of self-respect and attention to detail. Use subtle symbols of authority. Glasses, a watch, a professional bag. Small visual cues can enhance your perceived competence. Your appearance is the first message you send before you speak. Make sure it aligns with the influence you want to project. Final thought. Nonverbal communication is not about putting on a performance. It's about aligning your physical presence with your internal message. When your body language matches your intention, people feel it, and they trust it. Remember, persuasion is not just about convincing someone with facts or logic. It's about making them feel something. And often, that feeling is communicated long before a single word is spoken. Mastering nonverbal influence means becoming more aware of yourself, of others, and of the silent signals that shape every interaction. It means moving through the world with intention, alignment, and quiet confidence. In the next chapter, we'll explore how emotional intelligence and empathy can further amplify your persuasive power. Because true influence isn't about pressure, it's about understanding. And understanding begins with feeling what others feel. Chapter 5. Emotional intelligence and empathy. True persuasion begins with understanding. Not just understanding logic or facts, but understanding people. And that means understanding emotions. Every decision, reaction, and belief is colored by emotion. Emotional intelligence and empathy are the tools that allow you to read those emotions, respond to them effectively, and build the deep trust that long-lasting influence is built upon. In this chapter, we'll explore why emotional intelligence and empathy are essential to persuasion, and how you can develop these skills to influence others with authenticity, sensitivity, and impact. Point 1. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. High EQ doesn't mean being overly emotional. It means being emotionally aware. You can walk into a room and sense the emotional atmosphere. You can read people's expressions and tone, pick up on what they're not saying, and adjust your approach accordingly. There are 5 core components of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, knowing what you're feeling and why; self-regulation, managing your emotional reactions and staying composed under pressure; motivation, being driven by internal goals rather than external rewards; empathy, sensing and understanding how others feel; social skills, building healthy relationships, and influencing others effectively. When you raise your emotional intelligence, you don't just become a better communicator. You become a better listener, a better leader, and a more persuasive human being. Point 2. Why emotional intelligence is crucial in persuasion. Think about the last time someone influenced you. Chances are, it wasn't just what they said, it was how they made you feel. Persuasion isn't only about the message. It's about the experience. Here's how emotional intelligence amplifies your ability to persuade. You respond, rather than react. Instead of snapping back defensively or getting flustered, you maintain emotional control and poise. You adjust in real time. You notice when someone is disengaged, skeptical, or overwhelmed, and you pivot your approach accordingly. You make others feel understood. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Emotional intelligence helps you meet them where they are. Whether you're selling, teaching, leading, or negotiating, emotional intelligence gives you the edge because it makes your influence feel human, not mechanical or forced. Point 3. The role of empathy in influence. Empathy is the heart of influence. It's the ability to step into someone else's shoes, not to judge, fix, or critique, but to truly understand. Empathy isn't about agreeing with someone's point of view. It's about respecting it. It's about saying, I see you. I hear you. I get it. When people feel understood, several powerful things happen. Their defenses drop. They become more open to your message. They begin to trust you. Empathy makes persuasion collaborative instead of combative. It shifts the conversation from me versus you to let's figure this out together. 4. How to develop empathy. Empathy is not just a trait. It's a skill. It can be cultivated and strengthened with intention and practice. Here are some techniques to increase your empathy. In conversations, 1. Listen without an agenda. Instead of listening just to reply, listen to understand. Don't plan your next statement while the other person is speaking. Let them finish fully and stay present. Point 2. Ask clarifying questions. Say things like, can you help me understand what you mean by that? What was going through your mind when that happened? How did that make you feel? These questions signal that you value their experience. Point 3. Reflect what you hear. This is called reflective listening. You repeat or paraphrase what they've said to show you're tracking their perspective. So, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because you didn't feel heard. If I understand correctly, your concern is about trust, not the idea itself. This simple step builds deep rapport. Point 4. Tune into body language and tone. Sometimes what someone says is different from what they mean. Their tone, pace, or facial expression might reveal something deeper. Empathy means paying attention to what's unsaid. Point 5. Suspend judgment. You don't need to fix, correct, or solve everything. Empathy begins when you stop judging and start listening. You allow the person to feel how they feel without trying to change it. Point 5. Emotionally intelligent language that persuades. Once you've tuned into someone's emotions, the next step is to respond with emotional intelligence. This means using words and phrases that validate, comfort, and inspire. Some emotionally intelligent phrases include, that sounds really difficult. I appreciate you sharing it. It makes total sense you'd feel that way. I see where you're coming from. Here's what I'm thinking. Let's figure out a way forward that works for both of us. These phrases build trust and psychological safety. And once safety is established, influence becomes much easier. Point 6. Reading the emotional landscape. Emotionally intelligent persuaders are like emotional detectives. They scan for clues in voice, posture, energy, and facial expression to read the emotional state of their audience. Ask yourself in every conversation, what emotions are present? What is this person really worried about? What do they need to hear right now to feel respected or reassured? You don't have to guess perfectly. Even asking yourself these questions sharpens your emotional radar and makes you more attentive, sensitive, and effective. Point 7. Managing your own emotions. You can't influence others if you're emotionally reactive yourself. Part of emotional intelligence is self-regulation, the ability to stay composed, focused, and respectful, even in tense moments. Here's how to manage your emotions during persuasive conversations. Pause before reacting. A brief moment of silence gives your brain time to choose a better response. Breathe deeply. Slow breathing lowers anxiety and restores clarity. Detach from outcome. Focus more on understanding and less on winning. This takes pressure off the interaction. Reframe conflict as opportunity. Disagreements aren't barriers, they're openings to deeper connection and insight. Influence requires emotional stability. The calmer you stay, the more control you have, not just over the conversation, but over its outcome. Point 8. Influence rooted in empathy lasts longer. Anyone can influence someone in the short term through fear, pressure, or manipulation. But influence, rooted in empathy, creates long-term loyalty. It earns you respect, admiration, and trust that endures long after the conversation ends. Here's why. People remember how you made them feel. People trust those who understand them. People follow those who lead with compassion, not control. Empathy doesn't weaken your persuasion. It strengthens it. It turns your influence from a transaction into a relationship. Final thought: emotional intelligence and empathy are not soft skills. They are power skills. In a world of noise, speed, and superficial communication, they allow you to stand out, not by dominating, but by deeply connecting. The most persuasive people in the world are not the loudest or the smartest. They're the ones who feel the room, understand the person, and adjust their message to meet the moment. In the next chapter, we'll explore how powerful social triggers, like social proof, authority, and scarcity, shape decisions behind the scenes. But always remember, the most powerful influence begins with emotional connection. That's what people remember. That's what people follow. Chapter 6. Social proof and scarcity, the invisible forces that shape decisions. Human beings like to believe that they are logical, independent thinkers. But when faced with uncertainty, most people look outward, to others, for guidance. We are social creatures, wired to observe, imitate, and align ourselves with what others are doing. This is where two of the most powerful principles of persuasion come into play: social proof and scarcity. In this chapter, you'll learn how these psychological triggers work, why they're so effective, and how you can ethically use them to influence decisions, build trust, and create urgency in any situation, from business and marketing to leadership and personal relationships. 1. Understanding social proof. Why we follow the crowd. Social proof is the idea that people look to others to determine how to think, feel, and behave, especially when they are unsure. Imagine walking into a restaurant and seeing one side of the room filled with diners and the other completely empty. Even without tasting the food, your brain instinctively assumes the full side must be better. That's social proof at work. We assume, if many people like it, it must be good. If others are doing it, it must be right. If someone like me is using it, I should too. This is especially powerful when the situation is unfamiliar or uncertain. The people we observe are similar to us. The behavior is repeated across many others. Social proof reduces our cognitive load. It lets us skip the process of overanalyzing and simply follow what others have already validated. 2. The forms of social proof and how to use them. There are several types of social proof, and each one can be used strategically to build influence. 1. Expert social proof. When an expert, authority figure, or industry leader endorses something, it becomes more persuasive. People assume, if they trust it, I can too. How to use it. Mention expert opinions or testimonials in your message. Reference credible studies or well-known names. Align your ideas with respected thought leaders. 2. User social proof. This is the endorsement of everyday users. It's especially effective when the people giving the proof are relatable to your target audience. How to use it. Share reviews, testimonials, and case studies. Highlight stories of customers, clients, or community members. Use phrases like most of our users or our clients typically. 3. Peer social proof. People are strongly influenced by what their peers are doing. We care about the approval and behavior of those in our own social or professional circles. How to use it. Emphasize popularity within a specific group. 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs use this tool. Share stats and examples of adoption by similar people or companies. 4. Crowd social proof. Large numbers create a sense of legitimacy and credibility. If thousands of people are doing something, it must be worthwhile, right? How to use it. Mention user numbers, followers, downloads, or signups. Use language like join over 100,000 members or trending among professionals. 5. Celebrity or influencer social proof. People often trust recommendations from those they admire. Even if the person isn't an expert, Their popularity or success can transfer trust. How to use it? Share endorsements from public figures or influencers. Show partnerships, brand affiliations, or shoutouts. 3. Ethical use of social proof. Social proof becomes unethical when it's faked, exaggerated, or manipulated. It's critical to use this principle with honesty and integrity. Misleading claims may get short-term results, but they destroy long-term trust. Instead, aim to let real customers speak for you. Use actual data, not inflated numbers. Build real community around your message or product. Ethical social proof builds credibility. It doesn't just attract, it earns trust. 4. Understanding scarcity. Why we want what's rare. While social proof pulls people toward what others are doing, scarcity pushes people into action by signaling limited opportunity. The fear of missing out, commonly known as FOMO, is a powerful emotional trigger. When something is scarce, it appears more valuable. People instinctively want what they think they can't have. Scarcity triggers urgency, and urgency fuels decision-making. This principle is rooted in survival psychology. In nature, rare resources are typically more valuable. Our brains evolve to act quickly when something is slipping away, whether it's food, shelter, or opportunity. 5. The types of scarcity and how to apply them. There are multiple forms of scarcity, each triggering the desire to act fast or not miss out. 1. Time-based scarcity. People are more likely to take action when they know an offer or opportunity is temporary. How to use it? Offer ends in 24 hours. Available until Friday only. Enrollment closes tonight. Urgency created by a deadline boosts focus and lowers hesitation. 2. Quantity-based scarcity. When there's a limited supply, demand increases. People believe, if it's almost gone, it must be worth having. How to use it? Only 3 spots left. Limited edition, only 500 available. While supplies last. This is particularly effective for events, exclusive content, and limited stock. 3. Access-based scarcity. When access is restricted to a select group, it creates a sense of exclusivity, and people want to belong. How to use it? By invitation only. Private community for members. Only available to subscribers. This form of scarcity taps into status and the need to feel special or included. 4. Demand-based scarcity. Show that something is in high demand, and people will perceive it as more valuable. How to use it? Over 10,000 people have already signed up. Selling out fast, don't wait. People are joining by the minute. This combines social proof and scarcity for maximum persuasive effect. 6. When scarcity backfires. While scarcity is powerful, it must be used carefully. False urgency, fake countdown timers, or manipulation can destroy your credibility. Avoid repeating the same limited offer endlessly. Creating fake sold-out messages. Pressuring people with dishonest deadlines. People today are smart. They can sense manipulation. Always make sure your scarcity is real. If used truthfully, it drives motivation and inspires action. If used deceptively, it destroys trust. 7. Combining social proof and scarcity for maximum impact. The most persuasive messages often use both social proof and scarcity together. Examples: over 50,000 students enrolled, and enrollment closes in 2 days. Our best-selling product is back in stock, limited supply available. Top rated by professionals. Apply now before the cohort fills up. Why is this so effective? Social proof builds trust and creates a sense of belonging. Scarcity adds urgency and creates value. Together, they reduce resistance, create emotional momentum, and inspire people to act now. 8. Real-life applications. Let's see how these principles work in real-world persuasion scenarios. In business, A. Product page showing glowing reviews, social proof, and low stock alerts, scarcity, converts better. In leadership, a manager says, everyone on the team is on board with this change, social proof, and we need to implement it by Friday to stay on schedule, scarcity. In marketing, a webinar is promoted as sold out last time. Reserve your spot now, both principles in action. In relationships, when dating, someone perceived as desirable by others becomes more attractive. Scarcity also plays a role. When you're not always available, you're more valued. Final thoughts. Social proof and scarcity are invisible drivers of human behavior. We follow others. We want what's rare. These instincts are not flaws. They're survival strategies built into our psychology. When you understand how to use these forces ethically, you can persuade not by pressure or manipulation, but by aligning your message with what people already feel and need. In the next chapter, we'll explore the art of creating irresistible offers, how to present your ideas, services, or solutions in a way that people feel compelled to say yes. Because persuasion isn't just about talking people into something. It's about showing them that saying yes is the best and easiest choice they can make. Chapter 7. Influence through questions: the subtle art of guiding minds without pushing. When people think of persuasion, they often imagine passionate speeches, convincing arguments, or bold declarations. But some of the most powerful influence doesn't come from statements. It comes from questions. Questions are subtle, disarming, and often far more persuasive than commands or explanations. They invite engagement. They give the other person a sense of ownership. They shift the focus from confrontation to collaboration. In this chapter, you'll learn how to ask questions that influence minds, shift perspectives, build rapport, and gently lead people toward agreement without making them feel pushed, cornered, or manipulated. Point 1. Why questions are more persuasive than statements. Statements often meet resistance. They can trigger defensiveness or make someone feel like they're being talked at. But questions invite thought. They put the listener in control of the conversation, or at least make them feel that way. Here's what questions do. Encourage self-discovery. People are more likely to believe something when they come to the conclusion themselves. Lower resistance. A well-asked question feels collaborative rather than confrontational. Create engagement. Questions shift people from passive listeners to active participants. Reveal insights. By asking, you learn what truly matters to the other person. The golden rule of persuasive questions is this: when you tell, they doubt. When they say it, they believe it. Point 2. The psychology behind persuasive questions: our brains are wired to seek closure. When we hear a question, we naturally try to answer it, even if only in our heads. That mental activity creates involvement, which increases influence. Also, when people feel heard, when their opinions and feelings are valued, they become more open. Questions create that sense of importance. They make the other person feel like the hero of the conversation, not just a spectator. Questions allow you to guide without pushing. An influence built on guidance feels far more empowering than persuasion built on pressure. Point 3. Types of questions that influence. Let's explore the most effective question types for persuasion and how to use them strategically. Point 1. Open-ended questions. These questions invite elaboration and expression. They can't be answered with a simple yes or no. Examples. What's most important to you about this? How do you see this playing out? What would success look like in your view? Use them when you want to understand someone's priorities, motivations, or objections. Open-ended questions help uncover the real drivers behind behavior. Point 2. Leading questions. These subtly nudge the person toward a specific conclusion or perspective. Examples. Wouldn't it make more sense to try the proven approach first? Isn't it true that we've already seen success with this strategy? Use them when you want to reinforce an idea or guide someone to a logical conclusion without directly stating it yourself. Point 3. Future-paced questions. These ask the listener to imagine a positive outcome, which makes that outcome feel real and achievable. Examples. How would it feel to finally have that problem solved? What would it mean for your life if this started working for you? Use them when you want the listener to emotionally connect with the benefits of saying yes before they've committed. Point 4. Yes ladder questions. This technique involves asking a series of small, agreeable questions that build momentum toward a larger agreement. Examples. Do you want to feel more in control of your time? Would it help if your team was more aligned? Can I show you a method that's helped others do exactly that? Use them when you want to create a pattern of agreement. Each yes makes the next one more likely. Point 5. Clarifying questions. These show that you're listening and give the other person a chance to reflect deeper. Examples. Can you explain what you mean by that? When you say that, what are you hoping will happen? Use them when you want to build rapport, uncover deeper layers of thinking, or reduce misunderstanding. Point 4. How to structure a persuasive conversation with questions. Here's a powerful structure you can follow in any influence-focused conversation. Step 1. Build trust and curiosity. Start with non-threatening, open-ended questions that build connection. Example, what inspired you to take this route? What challenges are you seeing right now? This helps people feel heard and understood. Step 2. Explore their needs and motivations. Ask deeper questions to understand what truly matters to them. Example, what would solving this mean for you personally? Why is this such a priority right now? This opens the door to emotional engagement. Step 3. Introduce ideas through questions rather than presenting a solution outright. Ask questions that lead them toward it. Example, what if there were a simpler way to approach this? Would it be helpful if there was a system that took care of this automatically? Now they begin to want what you're about to offer. Step 4. Create ownership and buy-and-use questions to get them to articulate the value of your idea in their own words. Example, how do you see this benefiting your team? What part of this do you think would make the biggest impact? When they say it, they believe it. Point 5. Avoiding manipulative questioning. Persuasive questioning is not about tricking people. It's about guiding them to clarity, helping them make decisions that serve them, and presenting better options. Avoid loaded questions, those that push a specific agenda or trap the listener. Interruptive questioning, rapid-fire questions without giving time to reflect. Sarcastic or accusatory tone, it erodes trust and invites resistance. Instead, lead with curiosity. Ask with genuine interest, and listen as much, if not more, than you speak. Point 6. The role of silence after a question. Once you ask a powerful question, wait. Silence can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. People need time to think, process, and respond. If you rush to fill the space, you interrupt their thought process and reduce the power of your question. Practice the pause. The moment after your question is where the influence lives. Point 7. Real-life influence through questions. Let's look at how this works in real situations. In leadership, instead of saying, we need to change this process, ask, what's currently slowing us down the most? How could we simplify this for better results? In sales, instead of saying, this product is what you need, ask, what's your biggest frustration with your current setup? What would your ideal solution look like? In relationships, instead of saying, you never listen to me, ask, can we talk about how we can feel more heard in our conversations? In negotiation, instead of demanding a better offer, ask, what's the most flexible part of this proposal for you? The right question can change the tone, the mindset, and the entire direction of the conversation. Final thought questions are tools of connection, discovery, and leadership. They invite instead of impose. They open doors instead of push through them. And when used with intention and care, they become some of the most persuasive instruments at your disposal. In the next chapter, we'll explore the art of creating irresistible offers, because no matter how persuasive you are, people must want what you're offering, and your offer must speak directly to their needs, fears, and dreams. Remember, those who ask better questions lead better conversations, and those who lead better conversations change minds and lives. Chapter 8. The art of framing. Shaping perceptions to shape decisions. When it comes to persuasion, what you say matters, but how you say it can be even more powerful. The same fact, idea, or proposal can inspire enthusiasm or resistance depending entirely on the way it's presented. This is the essence of framing. Framing is the art of shaping the context, perspective, or interpretation around a message to influence how it's perceived and received. It's about crafting the story you tell so that your audience naturally sees your idea as attractive, reasonable, and compelling. In this chapter, we'll explore why framing matters, the different types of frames, and practical ways to master this subtle yet transformative persuasion skill. Point 1. What is framing? At its core, framing is about context. It's the lens through which information is viewed. When you frame something effectively, you influence the meaning and emotional impact that others attach to it. For example, consider these two statements about the same product. This phone has a battery that lasts up to 10 hours. This phone lets you stay connected all day without worrying about charging. Both statements are true, but the second frame creates a more emotional and user-centered appeal. Framing taps into how our brains process information. We rarely absorb facts in isolation. We rely on mental shortcuts, associations, and narratives. The frame you set guides those mental shortcuts. Point 2. Why framing is crucial in persuasion. People don't just buy products, ideas, or behaviors. They buy meaning. The way you frame your message determines that meaning. Strong frames focus attention on what matters. Highlight benefits instead of drawbacks. Preempt objections by shaping interpretation. Trigger emotions that support your case. Set expectations that guide reactions. Without effective framing, even the best ideas can fall flat or be misunderstood. Point 3. Types of frames and how to use them. Let's explore some of the most powerful frames you can use to influence perception. Point 1. Gain versus loss frame. People are generally loss-averse, meaning they fear losing something more than they value gaining something equivalent. You can frame your message by emphasizing gains or by emphasizing avoiding losses. Gain frame example. Using this system will increase your productivity by 30%. Loss frame example. Without this system, you risk falling behind your competition. Both frames can be persuasive, but loss frames often create a stronger emotional urgency. Use gain frames to inspire and motivate. Use loss frames to warn and provoke action. Point 2. Problem versus solution frame. Instead of focusing on the problem alone, frame the conversation around solutions and possibilities. Problem frame. The current process is inefficient and costly. Solution frame. Here's a way to streamline the process and save money. Solution framing directs attention toward positive outcomes and actionable steps. Point 3. Identity frame. People's decisions are often driven by how they see themselves or want to be seen. Framing your message to align with the audience's identity can increase acceptance. Example. As a leader who values innovation, you'll appreciate this approach. This frame connects the idea with self-image, making it personally relevant. Point 4. Contrast frame. Juxtaposing two options or perspectives to highlight the superiority of one. Example. Unlike traditional methods that take months, our approach delivers results in weeks. Contrast frames create clarity and highlight benefits. Point 5. Context frame. Framing your message within a broader context or story that resonates. Example. In today's fast-paced market, staying ahead requires tools that adapt quickly. Context. Frames help people understand why the message matters now and here. Point 4. Framing in everyday communication. Framing is not just for marketing or sales. It's a skill you use every day in meetings, negotiations, parenting, and even casual conversations. Example. Giving feedback. Negative frame. You made mistakes on this report. Positive frame. This report has great points, and here are a few areas where we can improve. The second frame is more likely to motivate cooperation. Example. Setting expectations. Frame as a challenge. This project will test our limits, but it's a great opportunity to grow. Frame as a threat. This project is risky and could cause problems. The frame you choose changes how people feel about the situation. Point 5. How to create effective frames. Mastering framing involves intentional word choice, emotional awareness, and audience understanding. Here are practical tips. Know your audience. What matters to them? What are their fears, desires, values? Focus on benefits, not just features. How does your idea improve their life or work? Use vivid language and imagery. Paint mental pictures that evoke emotions. Anticipate objections and reframe. Turn perceived negatives into positives or opportunities. Tell stories. Stories naturally frame information in relatable, memorable ways. Keep it simple. Don't overwhelm with data. Frame with clarity and impact. Point 6. Reframing. Changing the narrative. Sometimes persuasion requires changing how people already see something. This is called reframing. For example, someone might say, "I'm too old to learn new skills." You could reframe this as, "Your experience actually gives you an advantage in mastering new skills." Reframing shifts limiting beliefs, reduces resistance, and opens minds to new possibilities. Effective reframing requires empathy, understanding where the person is coming from, and creativity to find a new, positive angle. Point 7. Framing and emotional impact. Framing isn't just about logic, it's about emotion. The right frame taps into hope, fear, pride, curiosity, or belonging. For instance, framing a health message as gain better energy and vitality appeals to hope and desire. Framing it as avoid chronic illness appeals to fear and protection. Successful persuasion balances emotional appeal with rational reasoning. and framing is the tool that blends both. Point 8. The ethics of framing: with great power comes great responsibility. Framing can be used to clarify and enlighten, or to manipulate and deceive. Always strive to be truthful and transparent. Avoid exaggeration or distortion. Respect your audience's intelligence. Use framing to help people make better decisions, not to trick them. Ethical framing builds trust, credibility, and long-term influence. Final thought: framing is the invisible architecture of persuasion. It's the difference between your message being ignored or embraced, resisted or welcomed. When you master framing, you become a skilled storyteller and architect of meaning. You don't just share information, you shape perception. You don't just present options, you create desire. The next chapter will delve into building long-term influence, how to maintain trust, credibility, and authority beyond the immediate moment, ensuring your persuasive power lasts. Because persuasion isn't a one-time event, it's a relationship, and every frame you set shapes that relationship's future. Chapter 9: Persuasion in Action, Real-Life Scenarios. Applying principles to everyday life. Understanding the theory and psychology behind persuasion is powerful. But the true mastery of influence comes from applying these principles in real-world situations. Whether you're negotiating a deal, motivating a team, selling a product, or simply convincing a friend, knowing how to translate persuasion skills into action is key. In this chapter, we will walk through practical, detailed scenarios that demonstrate how persuasion works in everyday life. These examples will help you see how the techniques you've learned combine and adapt to diverse contexts, and how you can use them naturally to influence others with confidence and authenticity. Scenario 1: Persuading a client in sales context. You're a consultant meeting with a prospective client who is hesitant to invest in your services. Persuasion techniques in use. Building instant trust. Start by establishing rapport. Use open body language, maintain eye contact, and mirror their communication style subtly. Emotional intelligence and empathy. Ask open-ended questions to understand their concerns. What challenges have you faced with previous consultants? Show genuine understanding without interrupting. Social proof. Share success stories and testimonials relevant to their industry. Several clients like you have seen a 25% increase in efficiency after working with us. Scarcity. Mention limited availability. Our next onboarding slot fills quickly. I want to make sure you get priority access. Framing. Frame your offer around their goals and gains. This investment will help you free up your time and increase revenue, giving you the space to focus on growth. Questions. Use the yes ladder technique. Would you agree that improving efficiency is important and that saving time helps focus on growth? Would it be valuable to have a partner who can make that happen? Outcome. The client feels heard and understood, sees the value clearly, and senses urgency. They are more likely to commit. Scenario 2: Leading a team through change context. You're a manager introducing a new process that the team is resistant to. Persuasion techniques in use. Framing. Present the change as an opportunity. This new system will help us reduce repetitive tasks and spend more time on creative work. Emotional intelligence. Acknowledge the team's concerns openly. I understand change can be difficult, and I want to hear your thoughts. Influence through questions. Ask, what's your biggest worry about the new process, and how? Do you think this change could help us work smarter? Nonverbal influence. Maintain open posture, nod to show listening, and use encouraging facial expressions. Social proof. Mention how other teams successfully adopted the change and improved results. Building trust. Follow through on promises, provide training, and be available for support. Outcome. The team feels involved rather than forced, reducing resistance and increasing buy-in. Scenario 3: Negotiating a salary increase context. You want to ask your manager for a raise during a performance review. Persuasion techniques in use. Building instant trust. Begin by expressing appreciation for the opportunity to work there and acknowledge your manager's support. Framing. Frame the request around value added. Over the past year, I've contributed to 3 key projects that increased revenue by 15%. Social proof. Reference industry standards. Based on market research, the average salary for my role is higher. Emotional intelligence and empathy. Recognize the company's position. I understand budget constraints are tight. Influence. Through questions. What would it take for me to be considered for a salary adjustment? Scarcity. Highlight your own availability subtly. I'm fully committed here, but I also want to ensure my compensation reflects my contributions. Outcome. You present a compelling case while showing understanding and openness, increasing the chance of a favorable response. Scenario 4. Convincing a friend to try a new habit context. You want your friend to start exercising regularly. Persuasion techniques in use. Framing. Emphasize the positive lifestyle benefits. Imagine having more energy every day and feeling healthier. Emotional intelligence. Acknowledge past attempts. I know you tried before and it was tough. Questions. What kind of exercise would you enjoy that fits your schedule? Social proof. Share stories of others who started small and saw big improvements. My cousin started with just 10 minutes a day and now loves running. Nonverbal. Show enthusiasm and encouragement with smiles and upbeat tone. Scarcity. Suggest a limited time event. There's a community challenge starting next week. It might be fun to join. Outcome. Your friend feels supported and motivated rather than pressured, making them more likely to try. Scenario 5. Negotiating conflict resolution context. Two colleagues are in conflict, and you mediate to find a solution. Persuasion techniques in use. Emotional intelligence. Acknowledge feelings on both sides without judgment. I see this has been frustrating for both of you. Questions. Ask each person to explain their perspective. Can you share what you need to feel respected in this situation? Framing. Focus on collaboration. We're all on the same team, and the goal is to find a solution that works for everyone. Nonverbal. Maintain calm, open posture, and neutral expressions. Building trust. Be impartial and ensure confidentiality. Social proof. Share examples of successful conflict resolution in similar situations. Outcome. The parties feel heard, valued, and open to compromise. Scenario 6. Public speaking and presenting ideas context. You're delivering a presentation to persuade an audience to support a new initiative. Persuasion techniques in use. Framing. Start with a compelling story or problem that resonates. Social proof. Cite endorsements, data, or case studies. Emotional intelligence. Read audience reactions and adjust tone and pace. Nonverbal influence. Use confident posture, purposeful gestures, and maintain eye contact. Questions. Pose rhetorical questions to engage thinking. Scarcity. Highlight limited time for the opportunity. Outcome. The audience stays engaged, trusts your message, and feels motivated to act. Final thoughts on persuasion in action. Mastering persuasion is about blending multiple techniques seamlessly and authentically. Every person and situation is unique, so flexibility and awareness are essential. Remember these key takeaways for persuasion in action. Listen first. Understand needs before influencing. Adapt your style. Use verbal and nonverbal cues to connect. Build trust. Authenticity and empathy open doors. Create urgency. Use scarcity wisely to prompt action. Ask powerful questions. Guide without pressure. Frame your message. Shape perception to highlight value. As you practice, you'll develop a natural intuition for when and how to use these tools. Influence becomes less about tactics and more about genuine connection. In the next chapter, we will explore how to maintain your influence over time, ensuring your persuasive power grows stronger with every interaction. Because persuasion is not a one-time skill, it's a lifelong art of connecting, understanding, and inspiring others. Chapter 10. Advanced Persuasion Triggers. Unlocking deeper levels of influence. As you grow in your understanding and practice of persuasion, you'll discover there are deeper, subtler triggers that can dramatically amplify your influence. These advanced persuasion triggers tap into complex psychological and emotional dynamics, often operating below the surface of conscious awareness. Mastering these triggers will allow you to engage people on multiple levels: intellectual, emotional, social, and even subconscious, making your influence more powerful, nuanced, and lasting. In this chapter, we will explore several of these advanced triggers, explain why they work, and show you how to apply them ethically to become a true persuasion master. 1. Commitment and consistency. The power of small yes. One of the most powerful human drives is the desire to be consistent, to align actions with beliefs and past behaviors with future decisions. This trigger works because once someone commits, even in a small way, they feel psychological pressure too. Stay consistent with that commitment. How to use it? Start with small, low-risk requests to gain initial agreement. Gradually build on those agreements to lead toward bigger commitments. Use phrases like, as someone who values, linking the commitment to their identity. Example, if you want someone to join a program, first ask if they agree that improving their skills is important. Once they say yes, follow with a bigger ask, like signing up for a trial. 2. Reciprocity. The give and take dynamic. People naturally feel obligated to return favors or kindnesses. This trigger creates goodwill and opens doors for influence. How to use it? Offer genuine help, advice, or small gifts before making your request. Be authentic. Forced or manipulative giving backfires. Recognize cultural differences in reciprocity expectations. Example, provide valuable free content before pitching a product or help a colleague with a task before asking for their support. 3. Authority. Leveraging credibility and expertise. Humans tend to trust and follow perceived authority figures, especially when they appear knowledgeable and confident. How to use it? Establish your expertise through credentials, experience, or associations. Display confidence and use clear, authoritative language. Reference endorsements from recognized authorities. Caution. Avoid coming across as arrogant or overbearing. Credibility must be genuine. 4. Liking. People say yes to those they like. We are more easily persuaded by people we find attractive, similar, or genuinely friendly. How to use it? Build rapport through shared interests or values. Use genuine compliments and positive body language. Be authentic. People detect insincerity quickly. 5. Scarcity revisited. The emotional weight of loss. While scarcity was introduced earlier, advanced application involves linking scarcity with emotional triggers like fear, exclusivity, or urgency. How to use it? Combine scarcity with personalized messaging to increase emotional impact. Highlight unique benefits or rare opportunities. Use deadlines tied to meaningful events or needs. 6. Social identity and group influence. People derive self-esteem and meaning from their group memberships. Aligning your message with the values and norms of their social group enhances influence. How to use it? Frame your message as supporting the group's identity or goals. Use inclusive language, we, our community, to foster belonging. Show that respected group members endorse your idea. 7. Emotional triggers. Beyond logic, emotions often override logic in decision-making. Advanced persuasion taps into core emotional drivers like hope, fear, pride, guilt, or belonging. How to use it? Tell emotionally compelling stories that illustrate benefits or consequences. Use metaphors and vivid imagery to evoke feelings. Balance emotional appeal with rational arguments to avoid seeming manipulative. 8. The power of storytelling. Stories create immersive experiences that engage multiple parts of the brain, making messages memorable and persuasive. How to use it? Structure stories with clear conflict, struggle, and resolution. Make the listener the hero of the story. Use relatable characters and vivid details. 9. Anchoring. Setting reference points. Anchoring involves establishing a reference point that influences subsequent judgments. How to use it? Present a higher-priced option first to make others seem more reasonable. Use initial information to frame perceptions of value or risk. Be subtle to avoid appearing manipulative. 10. Priming. Influencing decisions through subtle cues. Priming involves exposing people to stimuli that subconsciously influence their behavior or attitudes. How to use it? Use words, images, or environments that activate desired associations. For example, placing success-related imagery in a meeting room can boost confidence and openness. Ethical considerations. In advanced persuasion, with greater power comes greater responsibility. Advanced triggers can be very effective, but must be used with integrity. Always prioritize the well-being and autonomy of others. Avoid deception, coercion, or exploiting vulnerabilities. Aim for win-win outcomes that respect all parties. Final thought. Advanced persuasion triggers deepen your ability to connect, influence, and inspire, moving beyond surface tactics to engage the whole person, their mind, heart, and social context. As you integrate these techniques, you become not just a persuader, but a trusted leader, advisor, and catalyst for positive change. In the final chapter, We will explore how to sustain and grow your influence over time, turning your persuasion skills into lifelong assets that serve you and those around you. Master these triggers well, and you unlock the true mastery of persuasion. Final chapter, Becoming a Master Persuader. The journey from skill to art. Persuasion is much more than a set of techniques or tricks. It is an art form, a way of relating to others that blends psychology, empathy, communication, and integrity. Becoming a master persuader is not about manipulation or coercion. It is about influencing others with respect, authenticity, and purpose. In this final chapter, we'll explore what it truly means to master persuasion, the mindset and habits that support sustained success, and how to continue growing your influence. For life. Point 1. The mindset of a master persuader. At the heart of persuasion mastery is the right mindset, one grounded in service, curiosity, and humility. Service to others. Your influence is most powerful when your goal is to help people solve problems, improve their lives, or make better decisions. Seeing persuasion as a way to serve builds trust and deepens relationships. Curiosity and learning. Master persuaders never stop learning about people, psychology, and communication. They listen more than they speak, ask great questions, and remain open to feedback. Humility. Recognize that you can't persuade everyone, nor should you try to. Respect others' autonomy and choices. Point 2. Practice with purpose. Like any craft, persuasion requires consistent practice. But practice without reflection is wasted effort. Set clear goals. What do you want to achieve with your persuasion? Be specific. Reflect on outcomes. After conversations or presentations, review what worked and what didn't. Seek feedback. Ask trusted peers or mentors for honest input on your style and effectiveness. Adapt and evolve. Use lessons learned to refine your approach continuously. Point 3. Build deep empathy. Master persuaders excel at understanding the emotions, values, and needs of others. Empathy is the bridge between influence and connection. Listen actively. Focus fully on the speaker without planning your response. Read nonverbal cues. Notice tone, body language, and energy. Validate feelings. Acknowledge emotions without judgment. Tailor your message. Align your persuasion with what truly matters to the other person. Point 4. Integrate verbal and nonverbal communication. Words carry meaning, but nonverbal cues, tone, facial expressions, gestures often communicate more. Consistency. Ensure your words and body language align. Mixed messages breed distrust. Confidence. Use open posture, steady eye contact, and clear speech to inspire confidence. Warmth. A genuine smile and nod can soften resistance and invite openness. Point 5. Cultivate patience and timing. Effective persuasion is rarely instant. It unfolds over time, building on trust and repeated interactions. Recognize readiness. People are more open to influence when they're ready to listen. Be patient. Allow space for reflection and questions. Follow up. Reinforce your message gently over time rather than pushing hard all at once. Point 6. Ethical influence is non-negotiable. True mastery means influence grounded in ethics. Respect autonomy. Never coerce or deceive. Be transparent. Disclose your intentions when appropriate. Aim for mutual benefit. Win-win outcomes create lasting relationships. Point 7. The power of storytelling and authenticity. Stories connect us deeply. Master persuaders are master storytellers who communicate truth in compelling ways. Share your journey. Vulnerability builds trust. Use relatable examples. Help people see themselves in the story. Be authentic. Authenticity resonates and persuades more than any polished script. Point 8. Continuously expand your influence. Persuasion mastery is a lifelong journey. Read widely. Psychology, communication, leadership, culture. Observe keenly. Watch how great influencers operate in real life. Experiment boldly. Try new approaches and learn from the outcomes. Teach others. Sharing your knowledge deepens your own mastery. Final reflection. Becoming a master persuader means becoming a better listener, communicator, and human being. It means influencing with respect, wisdom, and heart. The skills you've developed are tools to create positive impact in your relationships, your work, and your community. Use them wisely. Remember, persuasion is not about winning at others' expense. It's about guiding, inspiring, and opening doors to possibilities for everyone involved. Your journey has just begun. With practice, patience, and integrity, you can become a master persuader, someone who not only changes minds, but also touches lives. Thank you for embarking on this journey. Your mastery awaits. Bonus: 20 power phrases that influence instantly, words that open doors, spark agreement, and build connection. Mastering persuasion isn't just about broad strategies. Sometimes, the right phrase said at the right moment can change everything. These 20 power phrases are carefully crafted expressions that tap into psychological triggers, foster trust, and invite cooperation immediately. Use them thoughtfully in conversations, presentations, negotiations, or any situation where influence matters. Each phrase carries subtle power to shift mindsets and build bridges. Point 1. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Invites collaboration and values the other person's opinion, lowering resistance. Point 2. What would make this work best for you? Shows empathy and focuses on the other person's needs. Point 3. Based on what I've seen, here's what usually works. Positions you as an expert without being overbearing. Point 4. Just imagine how much easier this could be. Encourages visualization of positive outcomes. Point 5. Many people in your situation have found this helpful. Uses social proof to normalize the idea. Point 6. If it's okay with you, I'd like to suggest soften suggestions, making them easier to accept. Point 7. I understand where you're coming from. Validates feelings and builds rapport. Point 8. What's the most important thing for you right now? Focuses the conversation on priorities. Point 9. Let's explore some options together. Creates a partnership mindset. Point 10. Here's a simple way to get started. Breaks down complexity, reducing overwhelm. Point 11. Can I share a quick story that might help? Engages through storytelling and builds connection. Point 12. How would it feel to have this solved? Triggers emotional engagement by encouraging positive visualization. Point 13. What's holding you back? Opens dialogue about obstacles, showing genuine interest. Point 14. I appreciate your honesty. Builds trust and encourages openness. Point 15. This opportunity won't last long. Creates urgency using scarcity. Point 16. Would you agree that? Invites agreement, gently guiding the conversation. Point 17. Let me make sure I'm hearing you right. Demonstrates active listening and clarifies understanding. Point 18. You're not alone in feeling that way. Reduces isolation and builds empathy. Point 19. What would it take to make this a yes for you? Focuses on solutions and commitment. Point 20. I'm here to support you. Reinforces goodwill and ongoing relationship. How to use these phrases effectively. Be genuine. Say these phrases sincerely to build real connection. Listen actively. Follow up these phrases with attentive listening. Adapt to context. Customize wording to fit your style and situation. Use sparingly. Overuse dilutes impact. Use power phrases strategically. Pair with nonverbal cues. Tone, eye contact, and body language amplify meaning. Final note: words shape reality. These power phrases give you a toolkit to influence instantly. While respecting and connecting with others, incorporate them into your conversations and watch doors open, resistance soften, and influence grow, one phrase at a time.